Calvin Coolidge once said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence." Persistence. That's the word that best encapsulates the past few years for myself. I've had some challenging, tumultuous experiences these past few years, and I've had to go through many obstacles without having any friends in my corner. What's up, everybody? My name is Tyler Adolfo. I'm 26 years old, and I have no friends. This wasn't always the case. At various times in my life, I had some friendships. At other times in my life, I had a lot of friendships. But I've always been an introverted person, and social anxiety has always played a paramount role in my interactions. Even when I had friendships, social anxiety is like my best friend. So maybe I do have friends, but social anxiety, bipolar disorder, mental illnesses are my friends. But I guess I'll start off with talking about how my elementary and middle school years were. In elementary and middle school, I always had an incredibly angry face on my person. I was dissatisfied with the world. I didn't like the fact that I was growing up in a single-parent home. I felt like I had been abandoned, and it was difficult for me to interact with other people. I only had one or two close friends at the time. But even them, I didn't really talk to on that consistent of a basis. At least at school, we would never really talk to each other. And so at school, I was severely bullied, in part because of the fact that I had no friends, but also because I had some issues with my weight at the time, which, as you can see, evidently, I have problems with that today as well. But, middle school, it didn't stay that way forever. I didn't always have no friends in middle school, or just a select hand of friends. I would eventually end up getting put on a medication called Celexa, and that is an antidepressant for generalized anxiety. And when I went on that medication, my 5th grade year, my anxiety levels plummeted. So from the 5th grade onwards, while I was on that medication up until about the 8th grade, I took on a class clown persona. But even then, I would still say I didn't have friends. I didn't have people that I hung out with regularly outside of school. The two close friends that I did have, we kind of started to distance ourselves. One went into foster care, and the other one just kind of got a new social group. And so I was going through my experiences seemingly alone. Of course, I had family and cousins that I was very close with, but I didn't have friendships, right? And they say friends are the family that you choose. Well, I took on that class clown persona, and I had many what I would call acquaintances, people who found me funny, but they weren't friends in the sense that we didn't sit together at lunch. I sat alone. We didn't hang out outside of school, but could I make people laugh in class. Going into 8th grade, I actually went off of Celexa, and I can't remember the reasons why, but it wasn't a personal choice. I know that the therapist and psychiatrist I was seeing at the time suddenly came to a halt, and I stopped seeing them, and I think that played a large role in it, but I can't be entirely sure the specific reason as to why I stopped taking it. But it had some incredibly debilitating effects on my life. I started to feel lots of anxiety again, and in 8th grade, I actually got into a pretty brutal fight, and as a result of this fight, I ended up transferring schools because all of the friends of that person then wanted to fight me, and I didn't want to keep getting in fights all the time. I was already severely depressed as it was, and I didn't want to have to manage, fighting people on top of managing, making my grades. So I switched high schools, and when I got to the new high school, it was an even more lonely experience. I really struggled to step outside of my social sphere and make new friends. And my entire time at this high school, I would eat alone at lunch. And, there's people I would talk to in class here and there, especially when we were assigned to work together, because of course you have to interact with them when you're assigned to work together. But they weren't necessarily interactions by the choice of the other person. And so I still felt rather alone at the time. I ended up switching back to my initial high school after things had settled down and calmed down, because I was just having such a horrendously bad experience at my old high school. And at this time, I also developed a medical condition, or at least started to feel the effects of it, and that is hyperhidrosis. Now, hyperhidrosis causes you to sweat at abnormal rates compared to the average population, even for the most minimal of physical activity. Why is that significant? One word: stink. I smelled so bad as a result of this condition, and there was really nothing that I could do, or at least it felt that way. I would put on massive amounts of deodorant. I would start covering myself in body spray, but no matter what I did, I couldn't mask the smell of sweat and sweat-stained clothes and BO because of this condition. So I was already dealing with the fact that I was alone, but now I started to get somewhat bullied again. People would make comments saying that, oh, you smell like a dead body at a funeral, but at least, dead bodies, they put chemicals that make them, not smell bad. So it's really cruel and evil comments. I can actually understand why they made these comments, because I did, in fact, smell. And it just felt like there was nothing I could do about it. I eventually ended up seeing a doctor for hyperhidrosis, and this was of my own free will and accord that I sought out one. Here I am, a ninth grader, seeking out a doctor to help me with this issue, because my family did not believe me, and I didn't have any friends that I could go to about the situation. So I sought out a doctor through my own free will and accord, and tried to hold as steadfast as I could and persist. This doctor ended up working out really well. He gave me a medication, actually. I can't remember the name of it, but also lotions, things to put on, when I go in the bath, when I get out of the bath. And they significantly reduced the rate at which I sweat. And in a few years, I wouldn't even need to take these. The problem seemed to naturally go away, which I'm very grateful for. Now, going into my second ninth grade year, because I actually had to repeat ninth grade because I had so many absences as a result of, being bullied and being afraid to go to school. And I was just so upset with the fact that I didn't have anybody to interact with, whereas it seemed like everybody else did. Going into my second ninth grade year, it was much of the same at first. I missed pretty much the entire first half of that ninth grade year, and the school ended up assigning me a special teacher to work with me one-on-one to help me get caught up with my work. And thankfully, I was then able to finish the ninth grade year. And going into my next grade, 10th grade, I signed up for all honors classes and had my most impeccable year academically that I had ever had. And I stepped outside of my comfort zone. And there was a medication that played a crucial role in this. That medication was Zoloft. Zoloft is meant specifically for social anxiety, whereas Celexa, which I had been on before, was meant for generalized anxiety. Now, Celexa was effective, but I stopped it. And now I was finally put on a new medication, Zoloft. And let me tell you, on this drug, I felt like I could conquer the world. I felt like I was Napoleon Bonaparte and that Europe was going to be mine. I just had phenomenal success inside and outside the classroom. I won Student of the Month awards. I got elected class president because of how popular that I became. I still didn't have any friends that I hung out with outside of school with, but I had lots of people that I talked to on a daily basis in school, and, friends that I could name. I'm not going to, but, I had an actual social circle, people that I would sit with at lunch, and people I would talk to in class consistently, people that I would make jokes and laugh with. I had that class clown persona come back, but unlike before, I actually also took my academics seriously, and, I benefited from that as a result. And so Zoloft played an instrumental role in getting me back on track. I ended up dropping out of high school in my junior year. And I know that's such a wide turn. Like, what do you mean? You got elected class president, you had straight A pluses in your classes, you were making friends, what happened? Well, I found an IQ test during the summer before my junior year, and the results of that test stated that I'm a person in the superior low range of intelligence. And this really struck a chord with me. It was completely antithetical to what people had iterated to me about my intelligence and all the praise that I've gotten in recent years. It contradicted that. But it stuck in my mind as somebody with OCD, and I just became completely obsessed with the results of that test and completely obsessed on the idea of increasing my intelligence. And it was such an unhealthy experience for me. I would assiduously pour hours into doing research on how to increase intelligence, and I would do the different things that it said. And one of the things that it said online is that medications like SSRIs, like Zoloft, can actually be a hamper to your intelligence in the long run. So I stopped at cold turkey thinking, you know what, I'm in a good place now. It's not like the past. I don't need it anymore. I'm interacting with people and I'll be totally fine. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. The new school year started, my 11th grade school year, and I believe I stopped going to school completely about 8 days into the semester, maybe 4 days, I can't remember. But it was very early into the school year, I just suddenly stopped going. And within a month and a half later, I ended up signing the papers to drop out of high school, and I was no longer a high school student. I had a 2-year dropout period during which I was pretty much completely socially isolated. So now I had to return to not interacting with people. I was isolating myself. I was only around myself and had lots of negative thought spirals as a result. Fell into a deep depression, put on a ton of weight, and everything seemed to be going completely downhill. But I committed to myself that at some point I would return to high school. And that's exactly what I would eventually do. After the end of my dropout period, I returned to high school. And now I was in an environment around completely new people. A lot of the people I had gone to school with had already graduated because I was gone for 2 years. And, it was weird now being in classes with siblings of, older people who I knew. And it just made me feel like a failure. I felt very overwhelmed from an anxiety standpoint. It felt like I couldn't even sit in my desk without falling over. And I had trouble interacting with people. And so I actually made plans to end my life because I felt like I was so socially awkward and that the IQ test said that I have no intellect. And I felt like I had no emotional intelligence, and I felt like I had no worth to the world. And I decided that I was going to end my life. So on September 14th of 2017, I made an attempt on my life. And I was hospitalized as a result and had to undergo about 14 days of 6 hours of group therapy. That was very overwhelming, but it was also very helpful. And as a result of being a part of these group therapies, I was able to meet with a psychiatrist again, and they actually put me on Zoloft. Because it was so effective before, why wouldn't it be effective again? And that turned out to be exactly the case. The logic held. I went on Zoloft again, and within weeks, I was able to return to school. I was interacting with people. I got caught up on all my work, and I had a phenomenal, successful school year for the rest of the school year. Our mock trial team won divisional championships. I had people there that I talked to that I even hung out with outside of school. And I ended up getting 5s on all of my advanced placement exams. 5 is the highest score that you can get. So I was very ecstatic about that. And it really went against this notion that I wasn't a person of intelligence, because if it's true that I wasn't a person of intelligence, there's no way I'd be able to score 5s on those advanced placement exams. An incredibly low percentage of people are able to do so. And I did it. I was one of those people who did so. So I had a successful junior year. Senior year, again, there were some, tumultuous experiences, ups and downs on the depression front. But from a social anxiety front, I had never felt better. And I attribute that to the fact that I was on Zoloft. Being on Zoloft transformed my life. Going back to the past, being on Celexa transformed my life at that time. So I've always derived a lot of benefit from medications. If you haven't gotten the gist by now, what I'm trying to say is that when I was off medications, I struggled and faced many hardships. When I was on medications, it allowed me to bring out the best that was in me. And the best that was in me was pretty damn good. I had pretty damn good success when I was medicated and on medications. So senior year, I applied to many colleges, and I ended up getting accepted to my dream university. I passed all my advanced placement exams. I was awarded the Advanced Placement with Distinction Scholar Award, AP Scholar with Distinction, sorry. And then I went to college. Now, the mock trial team was gone, of course. Everybody from high school went their own separate, distinct ways. And now I was in college off on my own for the very first time. I had a dorm in a high-rise tower at UMass Amherst, and I struggled greatly to interact with people, and you guessed it, I was off medication again. I was no longer on Zoloft. But I persisted nonetheless. For some reason all my life I've had this desire that I don't want to be on medication, despite how beneficial it's been to me, despite how advantageous it's been to me in my life. I just have this voice in my head that says I don't want to be on them forever because of the long-term debilitating side effects. But what I've come to learn is that it's just the price that I have to pay in order to be an effective, productive person. Nonetheless, in college, my freshman year, I tried out for and made it onto the mock trial team. We won our very first tournament. Things were going excellent, and I got elected member of student government as an SGA senator, Student Government Association. I was appointed to the faculty senate and program and budget council. I was on the finance committee, and I was just really, putting myself out there, putting myself to work, working day in and day out to get the most out of my education as possible, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. And to this day, I'm really glad that I put myself out there like that. I stepped outside of my comfort zone while I was off of medication and was able to force myself to interact with others. And then a worldwide pandemic began and COVID hit, and we were all sent home from university. And so I had the rest of the spring semester of 2020 going to online classes. I stopped having people that I associated with because we were all, locked inside of our homes, essentially. And I went through an entire summer of not interacting with people and returned to online classes in the fall semester of 2020. It wasn't until the spring semester of 2021 that I returned to campus. And in doing so, I decided to pursue a long-term goal of mine, at least as it relates to college, and that was I wanted to join a social frat. I wanted to become a frat guy. What better way to make friends than joining a frat? You suddenly, right away, have 100 plus people that you can call your brothers who you went through hardship with, hazing. But of course, we don't haze. I ended up pledging a fraternity. And throughout that process, I made 35 of the closest friends that I had ever had in my entire life. Because of the difficult experiences we endured together. When you persist through hardship with other people, you do form an incredibly powerful bond, and our bond was profoundly strong. These are people that I would call very close friends, at least at the time. Things would change. Going into the fall semester, I had been initiated in April of that year. We're talking about 2021. And I actually got myself a room at the frat house. And moving into the frat house initially was incredibly good for me. I was interacting with lots of people. I was a social butterfly, which is huge for me as an introvert. And I do believe that social skills play an integral role in a person's success in this world. Even more so than intelligence. I guess it is a form of intelligence, right? And so, I was expounding my knowledge and social skills as a result of joining this fraternity and really stepping outside of my comfort zone. But a drastic change would take place early into that school year, and that is I would start to begin to feel the early symptoms of mania and psychosis. which is a stage of bipolar disorder, which I had not been diagnosed with up until this point. I ended up experiencing delusions that my own fraternity brothers were Nazi agents, delusions that they were raping women, delusions that they were out to get me, delusions that they hated my friend because he's Jewish, delusions that my mom was a communist spy, delusions that I was an important figure and that I was related to the Kennedys. It just got worse and worse over the course of the semester, and I was hospitalized for it. And when I was hospitalized, despite all the crazy and hurtful things that I had said and did, many brothers came to visit me while I was in the hospital. Some family came as well, or tried to come. They actually weren't allowed in for some reason. Some brothers also weren't allowed in for some reason, but a lot of brothers did come to visit me in the hospital. And that just is a testament to their character, that despite the things I was saying and doing, they were very understanding of the situation. They recognized that it wasn't really me who was saying and doing those things. And so I don't hold any ill will against them today for no longer associating with me. I don't blame them at all. We've just kind of gone our separate ways. But when I got out of the hospital, so I was released in worse condition than I was before. I was having hallucination phone calls with a military general that did not exist while I was in the hospital. And yet for some reason, the very next day, they released me saying that my symptoms have improved, which is total nonsense. My symptoms did not improve whatsoever. They only intensified. And I went back into the world even crazier than I was before I entered the hospital. And I started disseminating all kinds of hateful posts on social media, saying hateful things in person to people. And I was conducting myself in a way that was completely antithetical to my character and to the moral values that I adhere to when I'm sane. So as time went on, people started to distance themselves from me because they were frustrated with the things I was saying and doing. And the things I was saying and doing were hurtful. I felt like nobody cared about me at the time, which of course wasn't true, but that's how I felt while I was in that delusional state of mind, thanks to mania and bipolar disorder. Things would take an even greater turn for the worse when I got into a fight as a result of my mania. And I won't go into too much details about that because I'm saving it for a separate video, but it was completely due to my manic experience. And as a result of this fight, I ended up getting expelled from my university. And after getting expelled from my university, for a different reason, I got expelled from my frat. I had posted online hateful rhetoric towards the Nationals president, and as a result of directing insults at Nationals, I got expelled from my social fraternity. And to this day, I'm not sure how my actual local fraternity brothers feel about the situation. I have reached out to one of them and apologized, and he accepted my apology. I plan on apologizing to more to kind of see where they're at. And hopefully someday I hope I can reconcile those friendships, because these are the strongest friendship bonds that I had. And I know there's sayings out there that, being in a frat, you just pay for friends. It's just the complete opposite of the truth. Best friends that I ever had, without a shadow of a doubt, without any equivocation or mental reservation, I can say that. And you pay to join any club because things cost money, parties cost money. That's why you pay to join. But you don't necessarily just join because you have money. They have to actually like you as a person. And they liked me enough to make me vice president of the pledge class. They liked me enough to make me chapter historian. They liked me enough to allow me to be the social media manager. All these different things. They went out of their way to support me while I was in the hospital. And how did I pay that back? Well, I said hurtful things on social media and in person. I got expelled by my university. I said stupid things to Nationals and then got expelled as a result from my frat. I ended up having to start treatment as a result of the fight I got into for bipolar disorder, and thank God that is the case. I started treatment in February of 2022 as a condition for my release, that I seek treatment for bipolar disorder and mania and get a psych evaluation done. And that treatment pulled me out of the depths of mania. My manic episode came to an end. But then I fell into a deep depression because I started to realize all the things that I said and did, and starting to come to terms with the fact that I once again do not have any friendships whatsoever. There's nobody that I hang out with nowadays. I pretty much just isolate inside, and that's not healthy. Since starting treatment for bipolar, I put on 170 pounds. I went from 180 to 350. I've cut back a little bit. I've gone down to 330 because I've been exercising and cutting back my calories in the kitchen, but I still got a long way to go. But I just miss having people that I can talk to. I miss having people that I could do things with. I miss having people who care about me. I miss having people that I care about. I miss having people that I could open up to and be honest with. I miss having people who could be honest and open with me. Social interaction is such a vital human desire. Peer approval, sense of belonging. I felt like when I was in that organization, Kappa Sigma, that I had a sense of purpose. And now it's all gone. I felt like when I was at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, I had a sense of purpose. I was going in the right direction in life. And now I've kind of stagnated. I'm not sure where I'm at. I'm not sure where I'm going. The future isn't looking so bright. And yet, I persist. As Calvin Coolidge said, nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. And he ends the quote saying, persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. I'm going to continue to persist. I'm determined to do my best to affect change. I hope that someday I can have people that I can call friends again. It's just difficult to do at age 26 when you're no longer in school, you no longer work. I'm in the process of applying for disability, so more and more I'm taking actions that are kind of isolating me from the world. And I just don't even know where to begin to start to recover friendships or, lay the foundation for new ones. But that's where I'm at in life right now. I appreciate you all for watching. Making YouTube content makes me feel a little bit less alone. Sorry if this experience that I shared was a little bit depressing, but you could probably tell by the title that was coming. Reality is tough to deal with, and I just wanted to be open and honest with you. That was my purpose. I hope you found this video somewhat interesting. If you can relate, please put it down in the comments below so that I feel less alone. I would greatly appreciate you. And thank you all so much for watching. My name is Tyler Adolfo. Please hit that subscribe button. I post lots of content on mental health. I have tons of reaction videos. I have videos that I've done in speech competitions on here, if you want to check those out. I have an eclectic range of content on my channel, and I would love for you to subscribe and check out what else I have in store. But thank you all. Have a wonderful day.